and kind of where are you at with Immutable and everything, and kind of what does that entail?
Oh man, crypto. Very early days. But it's good to be here. Got into crypto late 2016, early 2017. Like a lot of folks, read the Bitcoin white paper. But over time, just got deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole. Spent a bunch of time. So my background's in corporate strategy, corporate M&A. So I have a very TradFi background. Used to run mergers and acquisitions for a fintech out in Australia. But recently, have joined Immutable overseeing token design for the new games that we're building. There's some very exciting things happening. So it's good to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So, trying something new out. So I forgot to say that big thanks to Illuvium for sponsoring the channel, of course. There's a lot of awesome content coming out soon and recently. I think there's something coming out tomorrow, TSG, if you want to help me fill me on that. But there's so much coming out. We're waiting on Illuvium 0 Private Beta 2, which I'm hoping they're really right around the corner. Obviously, we don't have dates for you, but yeah, big thanks to Illuvium. Definitely go check out the Illuvium YouTube channel because they've got heaps of awesome stuff just piled on now. And if you've missed some of it, you're going to want to go and catch it all.
Yep. What's meant to be coming out tomorrow? Did I miss something?
There's something coming out in a few hours, just like one of the Andrew's streams on Twitch and things like that. So,
oh, right. Yep.
The other thing is, don't forget to check out Augment Clips. The link is down in the description down below. If these are too long for you guys, or if you want to catch up on some things you missed, they're really great bite-sized clips, 3 or 4 minutes of some really key topics. Really easy to navigate through. Don't forget to check it out. It's going to be huge. I promise you guys. TSG, anything else you want to add?
Nah, that's it. Augment Clips, definitely. We're going to go daily on that. So much content over there. So go definitely, if you haven't subscribed, do that now. The link should be in the description below. So do that now and then come straight back here. But apart from that, yeah.
Also, Jack's Twitter is down in the description down below. Don't forget to go check it out. He is the Gamefi mage. He drops some awesome nuggets all the time. He's got a running newsletter and everything as well. He's got some great insights. He's one of those amazing people that does all the research so you don't have to. Yep. Really, I wish I had the time to do all that research, but he is doing all that work, and you guys can benefit from it by following his Twitter. So don't forget to do that.
I appreciate you doing that because I don't have the time to do all the research. You make my life easier, man.
So let's kick it off with our first question. Jack, what are the biggest opportunities in Web3 gaming and maybe some general Web3 as well? But what are the biggest opportunities you see, especially coming from a background in focusing on layer 2 solutions in more recent times?
Yeah, the real truth is that I think Web3 gaming is one of the most exciting spaces because as an investor, what I've always looked at is where are people building on top of? And what you're seeing today is just an incredible amount of dev activity in Web3 gaming. And by that, I mean NFT and token-enabled gaming itself. And so what's really interesting is as more games are being built on blockchain, the core question is how do we support those type of builders in the space as well? And so I love talking to you guys because there's so many opportunities on things like content creating, building communities. It's about organizing things like words and all of the whole premise in my mind is if there are a lot of people building in the space, how do we support the builders? And for obviously Immutable is a great example, trying to be the layer 2 solution for the best games coming to market as well, especially Illuvium. Shout out, always.
Yo, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, Karen. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, yeah. I think what's really interesting is for all the people in the space, especially in Web3, there's immense opportunity to start building. I mean, for Scoriox and TSG, you guys are such great examples of folks who are just like, I love this game. I think this is going to be awesome. I want to support it. I want to get involved. And in Web3, that is the most important thing. It's being active. This is not a participation. Let's watch and see what happens. It's let's actually go in and contribute and try to push this industry forward. That is what's incredibly exciting. And so Immutable is proud to be, the best platform for games to build on. Illuvium is going to be a great game, but everyone in this group as well has so much that they can contribute across the ecosystem. So I have a lot of it's good fun. It's really good fun as well.
I do have to honestly agree with you because even me coming in, because I've only been doing the content thing much shorter than Scoriox has. I've only been doing it for 6 months. But that whole idea of let me provide as much value to the community that I can, just keep providing and doing things, being constructive in that community, honestly leads to so much opportunities, like you say, networking, you make friends, you like, again, like meeting people like you. As long as you're providing value in that community, things will happen for you. So, and there's so many ways you can do that, right? Honestly, you could do what I did, go the governance route, like provide value in that area. You could do what Scoriox is doing, the speculation route. You could even do what Jeff was doing in regards to, I mean, you know what I mean? It's not, there's a need for it. There's a need for it. And like, there's the other side of things where you could even
Talk about your technical analysis, Jason. It's the TA that you do.
Like legitimately, you can do any of these things, and as long as like you're providing value, entertainment, whatever it is, like there's space for you to grow. But so in saying that, I actually want to kind of divert slightly and ask you, because you said that you got into IMX. Can you tell us how you got into that? What kind of like was it? You just applied for it, you got it. Did you provide value in the community beforehand and then get that? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So for background, I started as a VC investing in games, took a larger look at the landscape. What were the best games coming to market? Where were they being built on? What were the most exciting opportunities? I think in that process, we started a guild called Balthazar, which is one of the largest ones in the space. And I think that gave me obviously the right connections in the space as well. And so being an active builder opened up those type of doors. And I think it's one of those things where it's connections of connections. And so from my perspective, I have a very finance background. I never actually have done any tokenomic design, but for the folks at Immutable, it is about how do we break in the frontier. They actually, what we love thinking about is let's get people who haven't done this before thinking about these problems for the first time. I mean, for you guys' context, Immutable started off as just a Gods Unchained by itself on ETH layer 1. And so the whole premise was, guys, this isn't going to work. We need to build a layer 2 for this because we are building on this space and it's not working. So how do I actually, contribute as well? And so we pivoted into a layer 2 solution, Immutable X, and now we're building that, trying to get a bunch of devs on here, but then also building new games as well on top of the core technology that we've built. And so I think for me, how I got involved was I just had the most respect for these guys in the space. They're Australian as well, so very vested interest.
It helps.
Very vested interest. It's like this group and Illuvium as well. It's because they're Australian. That's why it helps so much. But eventually, it was just conversations upon conversations, and there was an opportunity to jump on board looking at new tokenomic designs, and I was like, this is where the frontier is, and I just couldn't turn it down. I actually never thought that I'd be working somewhere else in a big company ever again, but I think for this, especially in Web3, you just don't get this opportunity for the stuff that we're looking at, and the new game that we want to build as well, unbeatable. So that's what happened.
I think we're definitely living in a crazy time right now. Like the opportunities, like in the whole Web3 space is just massive. Sorry, Scoriox, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all good. I wanted to talk about the future of layer 2s. You talked about them being really helpful for gaming, and obviously they are. But comes this time where Ethereum 2.0 will eventually be finished in 2 or 3 years. And obviously, I don't think it can ever have zero gas fees, or at least they could be hidden in some way. But if you think Ethereum 2.0 does exist one day and it costs less than a cent to do a transaction and things like that, Immutable obviously still has a bit more of a play since it's gasless. But there are certainly some downfalls with it as well. For example, taking time to take money out of Immutable and things like that. So where do you see layer 2 solutions fitting in as Ethereum upgrades and continues to improve?
I love that. Yeah, there's a few ways to look at this actually, and it's on the game perspective and then on the actual protocol platform perspective, right? For the games, what we know is that we want to have as little friction as possible for gamers. What does that mean? It means I don't care what chain you're on. It's like all games eventually should be cross-chain to the top quartile of good protocols, right? You're not going to be on every single chain. You probably want to be on the few best ones, mainly Ethereum ones. In that perspective, where does Immutable play? That's an interesting question. Where do layer 2s like Polygon play as well? Those are interesting questions. So my perspective is that it doesn't matter. It is more like where are the users going to? What are users using? That's the protocols that games will want to have access to. So that's interesting. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get as many gamers playing Immutable games, but then also for the devs to be building on Immutable as soon as possible. Like that's really important. on the protocol level, it's like so that's a different take on your question. Let's go back to your question of if 2.0 is done and layer 2 solutions aren't required, do layer 2s even need to exist? That's a great question. I can tell you that probably not. So for Polygon and Immutable and any other layer 2 that does start building on layer 1, that differentiator doesn't really matter. The core question is, what happens if Polygon and Immutable have a great community of devs building on there already? Really, the differentiator isn't technology anymore, right? In Web3 especially, and the ability to fork and to just copy paste underlying technology. It actually isn't about those type of competitive advantages anymore. It's about dev activity. It's about how you've created a culture around your actual underlying protocol. As an investor, that's what I looked at as well. A lot of it was who has the better chain, who has the best TPS, who has the best decentralization, Solana, AVAX, ETH, layer 1, layer 2s. Actually, what I thought about was where are the devs going and why are they going there?
Yeah.
And Solana did so well because it is fast technology, but it was because they built sexiness around the actual brand. It's like when you build on Solana, you feel better about yourself than building on layer 1. And that actually is that's what crypto at its core, as much as it is about technology and business model innovation, it's social innovation as well. It's like, it's us rethinking which technologies we use, who we want to build with, how we want to contribute. And from that perspective, I don't even look at protocols as just technology. It's like, well, who are you? What is the identity of this protocol? What do you want to represent for the community and how you think about your community as well? And I think that's what we're going through. Will layer 2s exist in 5 years? Maybe not. Maybe Immutable is its own layer 1. Maybe Polygon is its own layer 1. And you don't need to be built on ETH anymore. And so on a technical perspective, I'm not the right person to ask that question or answer, but it's like, from that perspective, why does it matter? Like the actual technology, it's just about the community of devs who build. That's a core problem.
I agree 100% about your whole thing about like the social branding and whatnot, right? It is essentially, it's going to be like a brand. Like, why do people choose Sony, PlayStation over Xbox? It's, that's the culture that they provide. You want to be a part of that group. So it's the same way some people are Bitcoin maxis, ETH maxis. I've never heard of a Solana maxi, but I'm sure they exist. Like there are these things, right? So I think it is a brand thing. And I actually want to touch on a point that you kind of just brought up just very quickly. You said that you want to look at where the devs are going. I want to ask, where do you see the devs going? And why do you think they're choosing that chain, if for any reason?
That's a great question. You talking about game devs?
Just in general, like develop, because obviously, like the success of a chain isn't just going to be solely based on games, right? So for the entire space 100%. To actually work out, like an entire city to be built, you're going to need plumbers, electricians, a whole bunch. So developers in general.
I think from my perspective, there's two types of decisions that builders go to. One is looking towards history of blockchain and where blockchain has fundamentally come from, which is about decentralization first. That usually leads devs to think about Ethereum as the main place to start building on. And once they figure out the scaling issues, etc., that's where it becomes. That's one group of thinking. The other one is most aligned to big incentives by the new protocols as well. When all these new layer 1s come to the space, they want to take market share from Ethereum, and so they offer incredible incentives to build games, dexes, DeFi apps, all those type of protocols as well. And so a lot of the time, it is about, in my mind, there's probably 2 or 3 different factors, right? It's like the underlying philosophy of why you're in crypto, the points of decentralization, decentralized governance, contribution, and then there's things like just getting incentivized to build somewhere. I have heard of a lot of folks. I think the third bucket would just be operational, which is there are quite a few chains that people build on top of that I've heard doesn't offer as much of support as they promised for new devs coming into the business. That's one of the things that Immutable's trying really hard on. We're still trying to get that right as well, which is we're seeing a lot of activity come on board. And of course, what's really interesting was 12 months ago, the business had 100 people. Today, 12 months on, it's 300. And so it's incredible growth. And so for us, it's one of those things where you need to adapt and scale. But that's, I think, what devs think about today, which is quite interesting. I think it's a great time to be a dev because devs are so valuable in driving the actual adoption of a network. So protocols give a lot of incentives. I mean, especially during the last year with DeFi summer coming through, all the layer ones were announcing hundreds of $millions of grants for people to just go cross-chain onto somewhere like AVAX, Solana. It's a very big business. Business. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think
100%.
I think Immutable is seeing so much growth at the moment. Like recently, it said Gods Unchained. Like recently, like Gods Unchained was really their only game, and then Illuvium was added onto that, and a few other things. There are a few others I can't think of right now, but they've got quite a few games on there now. But you were talking recently, Jack, about how there are more games being added to Immutable. Obviously, they've got the Immutable GameStop partnership with the grants and everything like that. How are you guys really focusing on grabbing new games at the moment, or is there somewhere else that the focus lies? Because I know Immutable is also working on onboarding tools for gamers and things like that, where they can just use credit cards and that sort of stuff. I know is on their radar. Where are the focuses at the moment?
Good question, Scoriox.
You guys are professionals.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, if I start very high level, we want to be the game dev. We want to be the number one platform for game devs. Every single game builder should think about Immutable first. And I think what I'm seeing is that I spent a lot of time as a VC. It was people want to build on Immutable because they felt an ideological alignment. Like Immutable started off as a games company versus some of the other chains which did not. And that's where we want to play. The priority is how can we get as many top tier games on the platform as quickly as possible. And we're doing this in two ways. One is, of course, trying to get some of the games that are coming to market now and make Immutable the platform of choice. I actually oversee the token design of some new games that we're building, we're essentially partnering with Web2 studios, handling their tokenomics strategy, including NFTs and tokenization, and leading that way. Because for us, I mean, think about our history. We have 3 tokens in market across all the best exchanges, all the top exchanges. Total market value around $3 billion. And so we know what we're doing. And so, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Man, so I want to pivot slightly, going back to what you're actually covering, because obviously we're talking about IMX. So I want to talk about what you're doing at IMX, right? And I just want to pick your brains a little bit. So the question I want to ask is, in your opinion, because you're now in charge of the whole tokenomics type side of things, what do you think is the best way to use tokens to incentivize Web3 gamers? Like in Web3 games, what is the best kind of use case? How do you see it playing out? What are your thoughts and perspectives there?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think just quickly, tokens should be the extra incentive layer on top of just a quality game already. It's like 80% of the folks who play Web3 games, they should love the game and then be rewarded for their love. That is via shared interest in the actual protocol, i.e. you get tokens for being an active player, referring new players, being a content creator, building tools for the ecosystem, being value additive, right? Like the whole point of tokens, just for a bit of context, and the Immutable philosophy is when you think about network effects, think about something like Uber. That's a marketplace, right? You have the supply of drivers and a demand from customers. Initially, when it kicked off, there was not enough of a supply. Even if you had a bunch of customers on here, there just was no ability for new drivers to be onboarded. And so that network effect doesn't start until you bootstrap the driver side. And so they did a few things to get that started. In a game, it's the same thing. In order for a game to reach its minimum amount of players, you need to get a bunch of players in there. And the version 1.0 was getting guilds to partner up and for them to buy a bunch of assets and bootstrap your network effect so that there's enough players in the ecosystem to actually make it interesting. For example, for Gods Unchained, it's minimizing the amount of time it takes to queue up in a game. The longer you queue, the worse your experience. And so that's really important. The point about tokens is how do we incentivize two things? One is early incentives is like, you love this game already, you've seen it, you like the mission. All right, if you're an early adopter, come help beta test, come get involved, come build stuff for us. You should be incentivized to be an early adopter. And then as you scale up the amount of players, is sharing the ownership of the actual game to its players. Makes us all much more passionate about it in the first place. It's kind of like, I mean, I grew up playing RuneScape, like tens of hours a day. And it's like, no, this is serious. I used to like sleep like 3 a.m.
I believe you. I believe you.
But I did that out of fun and passion, and because my buddies were there, and I wanted to level up. And so, can you imagine being able to buy and sell the best items that you've had, and actually get financial upside? I mean, that would be incredible. And I think, but it started off with a majority of my love was already there. That tokenization and the ability to buy and sell, get that liquidity, was just an extra benefit. It was a cherry on. And I think that's where, of course, games need to go. But I think that everyone's seeing that. And I think Axie, of course, was the first case study of all of this. I don't diss Axie because, fuck, it's super hard to pioneer in this space. And for them to be front and center, we actually shouldn't discourage them and say, well, actually, you guys have done a great job. This was version 1.0. Keep going. Everyone else will build on top of your hard work as well. And I think we've benefited from that as Immutables group.
Yeah. So actually, like, I'm really, really glad you brought up Axie, because I wanted to ask a bit of a follow-up question there as well, right? Regarding tokenomics, because you mentioned like you've got the ownership side of things, and you can have tokens as equity essentially in the protocol, and then you've got like the in-game tokens that are used as currency in-game and whatnot, which is the route that Axie went. So, based on your perspective, how would you like to see? Do you reckon there's room for both of those things? Do you reckon like we did kind of see Axie with the unlimited SLP tokens kind of drive the value down eventually, right? Supply demand. What do you think? Do you think tokens should be strictly like governance and ownership equity side of things? Do you think they should be in-game currency? Do you think it should be a balance? What do you think about that? Or like, how do you? Just what do you think about that? I'll leave it open-ended.
Immutable's philosophy is governance tokens only. Gods Unchained, Guild of Guardians, 1 token. Any future tokens that we do will be 1 token. We don't believe that dual token models work. We think that driving value to 2 separate tokens doesn't make any sense. Firstly, on the incentive layer for the team itself. Can you imagine us 3 building a game and us having 2 tokens to manage when we probably own 20% of the governance, but we also have to manage the actual reward token and the utility token? What are we incentivized to do? To drive value for the governance. We don't really care about the actual utility token, right? There's fundamental misalignments there. On a very TradFi basis, I've never believed that was a good idea. And so for us, as we look towards the future, we don't think that offering things like, and you can just compare Axie to something like Gods Unchained. For Gods Unchained, you do not earn reward tokens for each game that you play.
Yeah.
Unlike Axie, it's of course, SLP is minted every single time that a game is played where there's a winner. As more gamers play and as more games are played, more SLP is minted. For GU, it's just, look, play, get better. You can win more packs. You can win more Gods tokens. Like, that's fun. And for GOG, it will be the same. So we are very much single currency perspective. And I think what's really important in the space now is every protocol, i.e. an immutable platform, will have a tokenomic policy. It's, for me, what we're trying to build here is, what's the economic philosophy of Immutable? Right? What do we believe is true?
Yeah.
What do we learn? And so from that perspective, that's just one of the things. There's a lot of intricacies beyond that, but on a 1 token, dual token system, we are governance tokens all the way. And Illuvium's done a great job there as well, by the way, in terms of ILV, SRV2, pegging it to Ethereum. Like, all of this is also a reflection of that. You can't have dual tokens here.
Yeah.
It just fundamentally misaligns every player.
Yeah.
I think, because the Ethereum feeds into the ILV, so it's perfect incentive. The thing I want to lead that into, though, is what is your take on NFTs as a value driver, right? So you have an issue where NFTs, I mean, the more NFTs people get, you can't really harm the economy. But if they become oversaturated, then they're next to worthless. But I mean, the game's not really about earning money, right? So that's not really a concern for me. But what do you think about NFTs and adding in more and more, like in Illuvium's case, more and more Illuvitar batches and things like that? Over time, do you think games will have the speed to be able to add content faster than people are oversaturating it?
Yeah, we think about that a lot in terms of NFTs are the core utility to play a game. And so again, it's supply and demand mechanisms as well, right? The real truth is that the more supply of NFTs in the ecosystem, the more players you're going to get. Because if there's increasing amount of NFTs, it can be given to more players, and more players are able to get more functionality of the game. The core issue is that this means that a lot of these assets are going to be worthless, right? It's because it's just oversaturated with supply. To me, it's just a balancing mechanism. Like when people ask me about how do I think about tokenomic design, to me, it's just two things: supply and demand. It's like, how do we manage a pragmatic view on how much supply we should be adding in, and on demand side, how do we have as many demand functions as possible? I can tell you for something like Gods Unchained, it takes months to create new packs and new characters. You can imagine the art that goes into it, the meta balancing that we have to think about, the actual marketing campaigns that we have to go on as well. So introducing new NFTs is actually really, really difficult. And I know for the Illuvium folks, it's going to be the same thing. It's like you can't just launch new NFTs for the sake of it and just reskin. It needs to be, it needs to help gamers fall deeper in love with the game itself.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is when we think about NFTs, it's purely one calculation. It's what is the lifetime value of a player and how much does it cost to actually acquire that player, right? From our perspective, then, if that's our core calculation at the top end, now it's about thinking about how does introducing new NFTs balance the economy. And so the thing about Gods Unchained is that we make it very easy for you to get all the basic set, which is non-tradable NFT, because you want them to actually get as many cards as possible, and then just start playing. Now, if you are getting a lot better, you might want to go buy some packs, you might be winning competitions, and in that perspective, you'll be able to unlock higher rarity cards, like cards that might have extra bonuses or just be more rare with special cosmetic effects. Like that's the way of rewarding skill, right? That's really important as well. I think, I think overall, it's just a balancing mechanism, to be honest. GU and some of the immutable assets aren't, like, we're still trying to get it right as well. And I think what we're most interested in is across the immutable family, we're going to have just a great data set of all these different games, just trying new things and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But yeah, it's a balancing act.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Scarx, did you want to take the next question, man?
I just wanted to extend on that and talk about, like, you say it's going to take months and stuff for them to build, but as the studios grow and become a lot larger, obviously, like EA is like, they probably have like over 1,000 people. I think I'm talking out my ass a little bit. They have a lot of people. Some of those larger AAA studios that we know and love have a lot of people. Do you think as the studios grow, they might be able to meet that demand with new sets, new NFTs, new gameplay elements and things like that?
Yeah, of course. The core question is the economy growing enough that it requires resourcing, right? Like games aren't going to be releasing new NFTs for the sake of it. It is more like, is this going to be value additive for the core community? If we're releasing new NFTs, it is because our economy, i.e. the underlying player base, is increasing at that rate. And so from that perspective, it's also, if you think about it from a game studio's context, it's like, I'm not going to hire more people if there aren't more players playing. And so if more players are coming in, I should introduce more NFTs and introduce more resourcing to support that. I think 100%. Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see when, I don't think EA is going to do anything. I don't think Activision, Blizzard as well, those guys are probably Epic and Riot are going to be the main front runners for some type of NFT partnership. Actually, Solana partnered with the PUBG publishers to build something. We're not really sure what that is just yet. But from our perspective, Immutable's core job is that we have IP around our NFT and tokenization strategies. And our job is to support more games being built on Immutable. And so we're super excited to be working with those type of game studios as well. I think that would be incredible. And I think...
Yeah, fair play. Yo, I want to ask, right, because we already kind of touched on this subject slightly with the whole layer 2 thing. and the onboarding. But essentially, what I want to ask is, what changes do you think we need to see regarding onboarding to actually grow the space? We know that Immutable is doing stuff with MoonPay. I know they've implemented an onboard and an offboard off ramp for fiat into ETH, but in select regions only. So, what are your thoughts on expanding that? Do we think we need that? Do we think that they're going to transition to a layer 2 if that really does happen with 2.0? What do you think there? How do we approach this onboarding situation that we have to deal with?
Yeah, to us, it's, and I'm curious on the both of your takes on where you're seeing it at today, because I think for people like yourselves creating content, I think you guys have a great pulse of what the player base thinks about. From my perspective, it's these games should be frictionless. Like, to get started and to just play, whatever the pain points are, solve it and let them get started. That's all I care about. And so one of the things that is true is your point about fiat, right? We shouldn't be abstracting away the requirement for wallets, for having to even understand what the underlying currency is or the underlying blockchain that is being used, if it's in the interest of the actual gamer to get started. And so, I mean, to me, I think fiat on-ramps are one of those. I think a lot of it today is just about if gamers could see the types of games that are being created today and see the game trailers and behind the scenes of what's being built, I am certain that there'll be more gamers coming to this space. I think what's really interesting actually is we just need to help these games tell their stories, for them to showcase what they're actually building. The real thing that everyone in this group is already very well versed in is that where devs go, so does the world. That has been my investing philosophy this whole time. It's always been, if you see most devs today, they're not starting Web2 game studios. They're not saying, let's raise venture capital. They're saying, how do I get involved with Immutable X, Polygon, Solana, whatever it might be? How can I build a community, share my story, fundraise via NFTs, and then start shipping my game? You can see that that's where game devs are going. Eventually, the Steam model of download an indie game and have no economic upside for the game itself, and Steam captures everything, is like,
it's ridiculous. Yeah, that's ending.
No way. Yeah. What's your take?
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. What's you guys' take on onboarding in general? Do you think, like, how far along are we?
I don't. Yeah, Scoriox, you go first, man.
Yeah, just quickly. I don't think we're far along at all. In my head, basically, it needs to look identical to what onboarding is for Web 2, and currently it doesn't. I like the Gods Unchained premise, and I think Illuvium is going to be doing a similar structure, but whereas in Gods Unchained, you have that set of cards you mentioned that isn't NFTs. You need that. You need that onboarding process where you have a purely free-to-play thing where you don't need a wallet at all to participate, and then you can tell them about wallets. But I still think games in the future are going to need to be custodial, similar to a centralized exchange. What do you think, TSG?
Yes. So your point about it being exactly the same as what we're playing now, I agree 100%. I think most games, I think the free-to-play model has proven to be the winner. Like, I don't think we're going to be able to move back from that in regards to onboarding and really like a new IP. Like, of course, a Call of Duty could say, yo, you need to pay for the game. Of course, a FIFA can say you need to pay for the game. They've got that brand recognition, right? But if a new game like Fortnite came out and was like, yo, you need to pay $70, I guarantee you it wouldn't have blown up the way it did. Like, the reason it blew up was, yo, it was free. Maybe I see Scoriox playing it. Oh man, it's free. Let me just try it out. You saw the same thing happen with Among Us, right? Like, Among Us started getting some hype. And guess what? It was free. So, yo, I saw some people on stream playing it. It's free. Let me try it out. So I think that's the biggest part, like having the free-to-play experience, which Gods Unchained have done. And actually, I want to ask in chat, I don't know if I asked this, I would love to know how many people actually played Gods Unchained, because that was my first experience in Web3 gaming as well, mainly because it was free. So I need to like give credit where it's due. So I think that free-to-play thing is absolutely necessary. And then after that, it's like what Scoriox said. I should just, if I want to go to the pay to play experience, I should just press the button, yo, pay here, credit card, boom, done. As for educating people on wallets, I think that we should have a centralized wallet where it holds all the assets for most people. I don't think most people care about their own wallets. I think that should be up to, like, they should have an avenue for that. But I think that should be up to content creators to be like, oh, yo, people that want to take that extra step to like make sure that they own it, they have the keys to all that stuff. That's where they can get that exposure from us. Like, of course, the studio will kind of put a bit out there, but I don't think that should be the focus. I think the focus should be an engaging game. Yo, by the way, we can do exactly what the game that you play now does, right? You buy the skins. Epic Games owns that stuff. We can own that too. If you just want to play the game, we can give that to you. Done, 100%. And if you want to go further than that, we also offer that option. That's the way I kind of look at it. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with me there.
I think the wallets in DeFi are going to look different in 3 years anyways. They're going to be completely different. For example, a good way to think of it is the Wax wallet. It was a little bit difficult and kind of annoying to set up and everything like that. But once you did, it was pretty directly linked to your email and things like that. And you would still need your seed phrase to be able to hack someone and stuff like that. But it's all linked to that sort of stuff. So you have like a username, people can use that to send you funds and things like that. So I think we're going to head into an area where wallets are easier and easier to use for everyone. And then maybe onboarding won't even be much of an issue.
Well, that's how, yeah.
So I wanted to have a look at this comment here. The fact that Illuvium doesn't have any PvP shooting people, other hunters, that we deem as safe to schools. What do you think about that, Jack?
Dave is safe to schools.
No. I was actually reading through his so much of the core issue in gaming today is about education and onboarding. Today, I think the core issue is just making it easy to get involved in. The core issue today is two things. It's top level market awareness, which is what are Web3 games, what are the best Web3 games I should get started with. The second part is once you find a good Web3 game, how do I get started? It's something like Illuvium, which today is actually quite hard to navigate. I mean, both of your channels have done a great job for that. But the core problem is, like, well, even because it's so early, there's actually no easy way to get started in the beta to pick up an Illuvium and just go in the open world and just play. Gods Unchained is a great point. Obviously, you go in, you get a deck straight away, you learn the tutorial, you get involved. It's a classic TTG style. Guild of Guardians is going to be the same as well. We also, by the way, we have a big belief that mobile is going to be the most important vertical to go down as well. I think Immutable has a very particular view, especially because we've been working with our new chief studio officer overseeing games was X-Riot, and there's quite a few Riot folks in the business now. Their strategy has always been localization, which is the most important markets we need to be building specific games for in these different countries. From that perspective, it is not one game and let's just see what happens. It's actually one of the most important areas where new games should has opportunity to be in the hands of gamers, and let's create new things for them. Obviously, this is more of a longer term philosophy versus, this is what we're working on today. But I can tell you that that's how we're thinking about the world. I'm curious on you guys' take on, especially for something like Illuvium itself. Like, what do you think will actually capture the imagination of next generation gamers? Like, what's the one thing that you think like people are actually going to care about?
For me, I like to look at things that I don't understand. I know that sounds a bit bizarre, but I feel like I understand shooters, overworld games like collectathons, Pokemon style games and things like that, auto battlers even. But the one genre I've never quite understood, like I like to understand the things that I am surprised by. And one in particular that I should bring up is probably Genshin Impact. That is one that shocked me like nothing else. It's this mobile-based game. You can play on the PC and things like that, and it took off. And the reasons why it took off, I'm not quite sure. Firstly, a lot of RPGs and things, like mobile RPGs, had existed already, right? But this one in particular, I think it had that much more polish, and it was monetized in a much better way that approached a lot more people. The other side of it was that it appealed a lot to particular countries that I don't know myself. Obviously, Western countries have a very different gaming culture and very different games that they're into than things like Asian countries or Japan and things like that as well. are into. And I think Genshin Impact captured all of those sides of things that I didn't expect. And I feel like that sort of stuff, like you were talking about with localization, is going to play a big part. We're going to need a game that's going to capture, there's going to be one game that'll capture very specific demographics. And once you've covered a lot of them, and the games are better, if not the same as Web 2 gaming, then that's when you will start to see mass adoption in those sorts of areas. What do you think, TSG?
So the question was, what do I think is gonna like? Do you want to repeat the question, Jack, just so I can make sure I directly answer that? Well, what's gonna capture the imagination of the next generation of gamers? Is that what it was? Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
No, go take it.
So I think in regards to Illuvium, all right. So like in a general sense, we know that the whole collectathon genre idea is super popular, right? We've seen it in collectathon games like Banjo and Kazooie. Like that was super popular back in the day. And then Pokemon, from like back in the day to now, like the concept of collecting it all and has always been a thing. We like to collect things, and it makes us feel like the dopamine hit makes us feel like accomplished, right? Once we collect them all, it's like, yo, we did it, we achieved it. So I think that genre is always going to be there. I think with Illuvium specifically, like comparing it to its Web 2 counterpart, which is Teamfight Tactics, in regards to the order battler, it just looks much better. But I think the real magic for me personally is, I mentioned this in another podcast, I forget if it was this one or another, but the idea of, Ready Player One. Like I can bring a game into your game and we can all play. Like, yo, that's so far out, but the idea is so appealing to us all. So to me, what's the next step? What's the first step? An interoperable IP, right? Like to me, that just makes sense. Imagine if you played Need for Speed and you had like a customized card that you put all of your time into, and then a new one comes out. Instead of having to start from scratch, you can just import that across, right? That makes total sense to me. Like, maybe they haven't. Just imagine this. I'm just thinking about this on the top. Imagine they have a Need for Speed in London, like or UK, and then they come out with a Need for Speed in Japan, and you can just move your car across. So it's like a different kind of experience, but you still carry on your thing. And I think, as far as I can see, Illuvium is the only one that's really come out and say, "Yo, we're trying to build out this entire what's the word? Not genre, suite, an entire suite of games with this IP." And our plan initially from the get-go, this is what we're going to do. It's going to make all of our assets interoperable in the entire suite of games. So I think that is probably going to capture the imagination. That's what it did for me. Like, again, understanding that I could use a Sia in the actual auto battler game, and then I could transition that into a Mario Kart, a Luffy Kart, and have Sia driving the kart, right? Like that just already, or like a Diablo, right? You could move your instead of picking characters, you have your ranger and you control your Ramfire, right? Like, and I could play with Scoriox, I could play with you. And just that idea of, oh man, we could use exactly our same cards, our Pokemon cards, in multiple games, to me is super exciting. I think and it also means that we don't have to pay like for a new game, essentially. Once we have the asset, we can just play multiple games in the IP, in the suite, and we don't need to constantly fork out cash to, it's a new game, I need to buy a new game. Like Mario Party, you got to buy. Mario Kart, you got to buy. Mario Tennis, you got to buy. They're just taking money and money and money and money. But what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts about that?
Actually, I was going to ask, you know how in Ready Player One, the core thesis is there's one overarching experience, Metaverse, that wins?
I think that's going to happen.
That is a hot take. Yeah, because, go on. No, I want to hear
okay. Yeah, cool. I'll say my thing quickly and I'll let you guys go. But I mean, I think there's going to be a centralized, like, I think there's going to be one big thing, but it's not going to be the only thing. So I think that, again, human beings, we just like convenience, right? We're more than happy to give away our security to Facebook for the sake of, I can call grandpa in the other side of the world, right? So I think a lot of people aren't going to educate themselves, and they're going to take what's convenient. And I think Facebook is going to come out and create the centralized metaverse where people are going to go into it. That's where a majority of people are going to go. And then you're going to have, I won't say majority, but a vast amount of people are going to go there. And then you will have the decentralized place as well, where people like us three will probably going to be spending more time on. But that's my take. I don't know. It sounds like you disagree there.
There's actually a really interesting conversation in the chat here as well. There's interoperability of assets themselves, i.e., a gun in one game in in another game doesn't really work unless there's some type of balancing mechanism. I suppose that would eventually happen, but it is more like, I think it'll start off as cosmetic as well. It's kind of like in Fall Guys, you can play as an Among Us character. I actually don't know if there's a licensing agreement there, like that. Oh, you must have to pay Among Us for that IP. But it's like, in terms of an interoperable future where games actually have cross pollination like that, you're gonna have devs who are very aligned. It's like if Scoriox, TSG, and I were building different games, we might be really close friends. We might have close shareholders, who might invest in all of us. But apart from that, like people like Santiago investing in all these different type of games. But it's like, apart from that, there's just no interest in going from like Illuvium, getting integrations like a Planet Quest, like another IMX game as well, or on a Gods Unchained, because it's like, what's the point? Like these are just random like communities, right? Yeah, and so that's really interesting. My quick take is, I think this is more of a corporate strategy take, which is why does if you saw the largest company 100 years ago by market cap, it was probably like an oil and gas company or something, or an investment firm. Why did they not survive today? It is because being number one and being the largest actually makes it very difficult, because new builders will come in and try to take market share from the market level, but also foundationally, the society changes on a technological front as well, and it's really hard to keep up. So I've never been a fan of betting on the market leader, because history has shown us that it's actually quite difficult to stay ahead. And so having one market leader have 99, 100% of market share is actually really difficult. But saying that, you think about things like Amazon and Google and these companies, and technology is so different now, in the sense of these companies know how to invest in innovation. They have so much money on their balance sheet to not only invest internally, but acquire competitors. And so in that perspective, they can stay ahead, which is very different from an oil and gas company or a railroad company who said to themselves, what the fuck is the internet?
Yeah.
How do we invest in that? I'm an oil and gas company, and they got left behind. And so that's really interesting. I'm not sure what your take is, Scoriox, on this.
I think it's interesting. I think in current market structures, with outside of the internet and things like that, you've got very much a location issue. I think the metaverse removes that, so we should ignore that sort of stuff. The only way I see Ready Player One happening is if you have like an umbrella company that's producing all of these assets and the hub and things like that, and games are actually partnering with them and saying, look, you have the hub, we'll build the game that the portal takes you into, and then people can use it that way. But you're right, you can't have random metaverses interoperable. That doesn't work. There's too many assets. If anyone knows anything about game development, unless you have an AI do all that for you, it doesn't work. But maybe we get to a point where an AI does that.
Maybe we do, yeah.
The other side of this is actually technology. So you have a serious problem already where most gamers are actually on mobile. You can't build anything like this on mobile. You need a PC, and then you need to go into a VR headset that can function like a PC, because you'd expect that the game to be on top. Because what I'm envisioning here is that maybe you have 10 racing games. Maybe one of them is on top, and part of the reason it's on top is not only it's better, but it's linked to this Ready Player One metaverse or whatever, right? But the only way to play that is with your high-end PC. So until everyone has a VR headset, because VR works pretty much the same in every game, whereas, you have other games where some are first person, some are third person things, where VR is a little bit more agnostic. It's a bit more tailored to everything. Until that's possible for every person on the planet, you can't really get this giant metaverse experience, which is what Ready Player One had. So I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to be in my lifetime. Although,
man, you think it won't be in your lifetime? That's crazy.
They say technology doubles in strength every 10 years or whatever, so you never know. But I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be what everyone has in my lifetime. I think in my lifetime it might be beginning, and the early structure of it's going to be there, and then it's going to grow over the next 20, 30 years into what people see as Ready Player One. But I don't know if I'm going to get it to experience that, in all honesty. But I don't necessarily want to. I don't necessarily want to. I like the idea of multiple metaverses and them all having a really different feel. I feel like it could get really easy to get bored of the one metaverse. The other issue is balancing. If you have a couple people, like, a corporate organization that hires slaves to work in their stuff, owning everything, that's not necessarily a good thing. You know what I mean? I feel like separating the metaverses is better for everyone in the long term.
What's key is, maybe the one metaverse, or I think our interpretation of that question is like, is there just one gaming like universe that you're in? I think you raise a great point, Scoriox. For example, this is Illuvium strategy, right? Which is we build one game, or we build a whole bunch of different games, part of this larger umbrella, and maybe they have different aesthetics and vibes to it. One interesting example is Virtual Human Studios, based out of Australia as well. They're the creators of Zedrun. They're creating Human Park and another game called Anamora, which are very different games. Zedrun is this futuristic horse racing game. Human Park is this free expression, open world type of, you have tattoos on your face and you do whatever the fuck you want. And then you have Anamora, which is more of an old school 32-bit like type of crab battling game. And so these are drastically different game genres, but they are fundamentally the same team. It's still the 100 people behind Virtual Human Studios building that game. What's quite interesting is, I think my perspective is how games companies scale is, and how any company scales, is the accumulation of two things: finance, i.e. money, and talent. Now it's about get as much money, get as many smart people as possible, allocate them into creating whatever makes you more money and builds that engine. So what's really interesting is, as some of these companies scale, they're going to be acquiring more companies, they're going to be building new games. I mean, if you were to ask me, okay, let's assume there's only one metaverse, who is going to win that in Web3? My mind, Animoca Brands, all the way. Like today, they have already invested in the top quartile projects in Gamefi. They've invested in all of them. They probably have a stake in all of them. Actually, except Illuvium. Never mind.
Hey, they're missing out.
They're missing out. But their strategy is, let's acquire assets, i.e. let's build things like Sandbox, that was an acquisition. Phantom Galaxies was an acquisition. Let's invest in everything, seed investors and be stakeholders in there. Animoca would probably be the number one brand in my mind, which actually offers interoperability, which is they are literally the octopus which owns everything. And so that's really interesting as well.
Yeah. All right. Man, this has been a really good conversation. Yo, thank you so much for actually asking us, and we're all sharing our things. But before we move on, it's 52 minutes in, so we do need to do the giveaway. I don't know, Jack, did Scoriox tell you how we do the giveaways? Are you aware of how we do this?
No,
right, so essentially we're giving away $100 to one of our viewers. And the way we do that is you ask a question, any question, crypto related, non-crypto related. What color underwear are you wearing? Anything. Probably not that one. But whatever answer you like the best, you just pick, and they win $100. Easy as that.
Ooh.
So whenever you're ready for the question, go for it.
You'll ask the question. We'll diverge a little bit, then we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Think about it. I know you.
Any question or
any question.
What's your favorite color?
Anything.
What's your favorite color?
Redheads or no? I'm just playing. Don't say that.
I want to make it gaming. So how about we do? And I get to choose the answer.
Yeah, you get to choose. You have all the power here.
I'll make it very simple. How about we do? What do we think in the chat is the most in the last probably 20 years, the most defining game title? And this is broad for a very particular purpose. Everyone can have their own reasons on why.
Say why. Say why, guys.
Yeah, you have to say why. It's name the title and why do you think it was the most defining game title in the last 20, 25 years? I think let's do that one.
Yep. All right, and then so we'll pick a winner, and then the winner can DM me, and I'll sort you guys out. By the way, if you're still here, Augment Clips, guys, we're going hard on Augment Clips. So if we've ever provided any value to you guys, please support us back and just hit a subscribe on that channel, because that would be very, very much appreciated.
We'll probably do more giveaways on that channel down the road too, so definitely go check it out. It's gonna be awesome. So the next question I'm gonna ask while we're waiting for this. Star Atlas comment. What?
Is there a Star Atlas comment? Where's that?
I don't know.
Ricky said the real question is, will we see the metaverse met together before Star Atlas releases?
Yo.
Dude,
Probably.
That guy's on some smoke. Oh my day.
Honestly,
yeah,
I'm 50-50 on whether Star Atlas is going to make it the distance and come out. It's a tricky one because there's so much happening in the space and everything's going to evolve too quickly. I think if Solana does fall apart, which there is a chance of it happening, it's a low chance, but there's a chance. If Solana falls apart, I think it's going to take Star Atlas with it. Honestly, so I think there's just so much risk in 5 to 7 years. Realistically,
they
10
say
to 12
5
years.
to 7, man. Yeah, they say 5 to 7. There's no way you have to double that. At least 10 to 12 years. Like, there's no way.
So we're not going to throw any more shade.
Just be objective.
I do have a really interesting question for you while we're waiting on the answers. You can read through them as you go and stuff, Jack. But most crypto economies are unsustainable and they're being slowly washed out. So we're looking more like a CSGO structure in the future where you open crates, you can sell some of that stuff for money. But maybe there's other economic structures as well. Like your World of Warcraft example is a really good one where people are making a living on there. Do you expect gamers to be able to utilize Web3 gaming as their day jobs? I'm not talking streaming or content creators. I'm saying playing the game and being good at the game. Do you expect that to be profitable for people as a day job in the future?
And if so, do you think it's the route we should be going?
Most sustainable game economies. The hard part is actually you don't want, at the point where playing a game is so profitable that you can actually make a salary on, I think will always happen depending on which country you're from. Obviously, that USD arbitrage makes a lot of sense. I'm going to interpret your question as is there an opportunity for, first world high discretionary income players, should they have the opportunity to earn enough money to replace like a first world income? My answer is absolutely not. I don't think those are sustainable economies in the first place if there are people actually not being able to do that. If you were to give, so this is my philosophy as well, those people who can make their careers out of it should be rewarded. It should be rewarded for skill. What I'm saying is that it is most likely esports players which are actually able to make this their career. That is, we're not rocket scientists here. You can just look at how League of Legends, StarCraft, TFT, these type of games have come to market. Those who make their careers are part of esports teams, are able to consistently win tournaments. The core objective when we think about game design is there should be a ceiling for how much money you can make in terms of being just a casual player. Because these are economies. You shouldn't be able to milk so much that you're actually able to use that as your main source of income in the real world. They should actually be going towards, if they're that good, they should be going to esports, and that's a whole separate type of monetization methodology. The whole point of a game, in terms of just social playing, that's very different from the actual making a living. Social playing should just be, am I getting better? Am I playing against better players? And can I make a little bit of upside for playing the game that I already love? If I were to give you a matrix, it's like reward on this axis and a skill on this axis. There should be a ceiling right here on the reward as you get better. And once you get better, you should be going into esports tournaments. And the space underneath that ceiling is for the social game. Everyone who's much better has much better economic opportunities in a different type of business model, which is the esports business model of community tournaments, company funded tournaments. That's basically it from my perspective.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Jack, did you find a winner that you want? And actually, I was thinking after that, once we pick the winner, I'd love to hear your opinions on it as well. I want to hear your take on that question.
Let me read
Jack, who's the winner, man?
Let me take a look at this.
Now I'm going to think of an answer.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about something like which wasn't mentioned, but now looking at these other guys, I'm like, oh man, some of them did bring up some really good points.
I really like.
Can
you imagine? I fundamentally disagree with every single.
All of you guys are retired.
But you guys don't know anything. I'd probably choose. You know what? I think World of Warcraft was one of the most foundational games in the space. Even today, so many players like the the actual cultural impact that's made on the world is incredible. I actually think that World of Warcraft could have done a lot more, like what League of Legends did in terms of spinning out new IP and building those type of engagement methods. So Silent Sage, man.
Damn, yo, Sage won twice in a row now, right?
Last week as well. Damn.
Yeah.
MVP.
Well played, man. Well played. Yeah.
Facts.
All right, so
awesome.
Sage, just hit me on DMs. You already know that's open.
Damn.
Yeah, but
you should have told me, bro. You should have.
Nah.
You could have rigged this.
No.
Nah. But so yeah, Jack, what's your thought on that? What's your response on that question that you asked? What do you think has been the most like pivotal game that we've seen? Maybe two, maybe one or two, right? Because picking one is super hard.
My top line answer would actually be StarCraft. That whole series. I mean, that game has been around since 1998, and I think it was the foundational parts of the Korean esports scene. StarCraft Brood War, man, it was like a decade since the game started. There was still players smashing the tournaments. There was incredible engagement there. That they're probably the leader in setting an esports scene. The Korean government was the first seeing the amount of interest and activity from the Korean population in this game. They're the ones who actually incentivized and set up some of the original esports tournaments that actually defined and kickstarted this esports genre in general. And that paved the way for Blizzard to be ultimately successful. But StarCraft Brood War also opened up StarCraft 2, but was actually the catalyst of why Koreans are so good at League of Legends, at all the FPSs nowadays as well.
Yeah.
And it captured the imagination of Korea as a country, which ultimately set off how the world thought about gaming as well. I think that's why Blizzard was even so successful, was because of just that. It was just breaking title was crazy. Yeah.
I think I have a really similar answer actually. I was going to say maybe Warcraft 3, but for a slightly different reason. I feel like it was one of the first really moddable games. And like when you create a game from a game that's more successful than the original game, then I feel like you've done something right. You know what I mean? And then like they had lots of mods, even StarCraft 2 did, but the community-driven content became a clear winner. And then the only other answer I would have said was like Minecraft. But I feel like that's a really similar thing where Minecraft was community-driven as well, a little bit later on into its course. But I feel like Warcraft 3 was the first thing that enabled that community-driven side of things. I think building for builders is far more powerful than anything else. Like a studio of 100 people can make a game. A community of 10,000 people can make a metaverse. You know what I mean? That's my new quote.
All right, yeah. Next thing, we're gonna have a T-shirt with that quote on it.
I'm gonna work on it right now.
Yeah,
you guys.
So, for me personally, I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna give two answers. One, I think is GTA, because I don't know if anyone has actually remembered playing like the OG GTAs, like from the top down bird's eye view, like from where they came from to where they are now. Like again, I keep mentioning this in multiple videos, but GTA 5 has been around for 9 years. Like one game has lasted 3 generations of consoles. Like that's insane. Like that's actually insane. And they're still generating so much revenue. So I think GTA has just shown us the possibility of like what a good IP can be, what good development can be, open world, like the online functionality. Like they've really shown us, and they're always pushing things forward. So I think GTA, man, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I think GTA absolutely killed it. I think that it'd be impossible to have this conversation without mentioning GTA. And then the second option is actually somewhat similar to what these guys are saying about like a Fortnite. I think Fortnite has kind of shown us like how successful free to play can actually be. Because for so long we've kind of said, yo, we need a like the price point for AAA games were like $60, $70 right? Like it was just insane. And it was like, oh, you could never be a successful game that was for free, or you'd be an indie game for free. But Fortnite really showed no, like we're going to move towards a free-to-play experience. Everyone has access to the game. Anyone, every child, Tom, Dick, and Harry, everybody can play this. Even your pet dog can play this. It's free. And the way we generate our revenue is from the back end, the skins and once you're addicted to the game, once you want to play the game, you're willingly spending as much more than the $70 that you would have paid up front. So I think that changed everyone's mindset. And also, like, I think that showing how kids are so willing to pay for a Superman skin has shown us, especially the old people, this new generation does care about digital goods. Like the whole idea of NFTs and digital ownership in games, Fortnite, in my opinion, is the perfect, again, goosebumps, perfect example of like, how can you not see this happening? Like, kids are doing this now. They're going up to parents, yo, dad, but Johnny has a Spider-Man outfit in a game. Like, that's their social currency. So to me, like that, like GTA, just incredible legacy. You have to respect it and then push things forward. Fortnite has cemented what the future is going to look like. It's presented it to us. And that's why I rate it super highly as well. Scoriox, I know you want to add onto it.
Yeah. There was one thing I learned actually all the way back in high school that really surprised me. We were doing like a quick test and they're like, which like demographic has the highest disposable income? The answer is actually children. And I still couldn't believe that. They don't earn any money. They don't earn anything. But they're the only ones that spend it. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's spending it on their gas and their food and all the rest of it. Kids don't have to spend money on any of that. So all their disposable income goes towards games and all this other stuff. That's why those markets are so huge. Like, even some of the biggest YouTube channels are like, just like kids shows and stuff, because kids will watch it on repeat because they've got all the time in the world to do that. Man. It's crazy. They've got the time and the money. So that's an interesting factor because currently crypto gaming isn't inclusive of children. It just isn't. I think once they're onboarded, then you can see mass adoption. But that's a slow process. There's so much security risk and everything in that entire area. But being able to engage that is so powerful. And that's another reason why mobile gaming took off so much. Because kids, they might have disposable income, but they don't necessarily have a computer. I didn't have a computer until I was 15 or 16, I think. Yeah. And even then, the first computer that I used was like on dial-up, and it was like Windows XP and all the rest of it.
Can you explain dial-up for the young ones in chat?
Things have changed very fast. It's insane. Like, I didn't have Wi-Fi for a long time. I played Pokemon. I played the first 7 or 8 Pokemon games without any Wi-Fi connection. You know what I mean? Everything's so different now. So the last question I want to go, because we're over the hour, we're going to start wrapping it up. The last question, Jack, and be as liberal as you want. How many players do you think could adopt Web3 gaming one day?
10. I'm just playing.
Oh, man. Well, I think super vested interest. And so the most prominent... how many people do you think, if we were to say, like, a gamer would be...
3 billion gamers right now.
3 billion
gamers right now.
You got
right
the
now.
Right?
Right now it's 3 billion.
Off the head. Oh, man. I think the thing is that some of these games will not cease to exist, right? And so the answer isn't 100% of that market size. I think it will become the most prominent. I think it's probably in the 70, 80% range of the total population of gamers. The real truth is that there will be defining titles that we go back to. I mean, for example, old school RuneScape, like, there's still 80,000 players right now playing that game. And that game is 20 years old. And so from that perspective, there will always be people who fall in love with those communities and stay there for the rest of rest of their life.
Man just gave himself up. Man just gave himself up.
Oh, God.
He's like the last player of RuneScape.
I was mining whilst you guys were talking. I was just like, fuck it. give me the ore. So I don't think the answer is 100% will go into NFT gaming, but it's just one of those things where there's also part of a larger cycle of the financialization of everything, which is everything that we have can become asset, and we can have asset. I mean, there's a discussion there on a Black Mirror level, but if true, if that statement's true, then for gaming, it's like digital ownership is the standard for that. And so I think it is definitely going to be the majority driver of what gamers are playing. So that's my answer. So if you were to put like 80%, probably down to 2.5 out of that 3 billion people would be playing games. Something like that.
And that's also not taking into account the potential and probable growth of that 3 billion, right?
Population,
So get more gamers.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I know I said I wanted to wrap up, but this is actually a topic. This is actually a topic I've never talked about before, but it's something that I used to talk about a lot with friends and things when I was younger. Is the membership structure? is the membership structure? I always thought the World of Warcraft membership structure was super weird, since they were the only one that kept doing it for so many years. I never understood it. I mean, obviously, I had a lot less money than some other people, so. Like, I mean, I was a kid, so I had no money, so I couldn't afford a membership structure. My parents weren't willing to pay it, whereas all my friends, their parents were willing to pay it, right? Do you think a membership structure will fit into play to earn? Because that's a simple way of getting people to put money into the system without adding anything else. I think it's something that crypto gaming hasn't tried yet, has it?
Oh, dude, yeah. There's going to be a lot of this. RuneScape membership and World of Warcraft membership is the best example of utility that I've ever seen, which is you literally get full access to your game by being a premium member of the community. I can see examples of you have to stake ILV to get access to more premium features. Even actually, do you know what? I'm going to take your question the other way as well. Is I think what we're thinking about for Immutable is how do we get even devs building on Immutable getting accelerated features if they stake IMX for the community. I mean, these are utility questions on tokens in general. Right? Like today, most tokens aren't really utility because you can't do anything with them. You can only speculate. And so on the membership side, I absolutely think so. I think, and I can imagine it's not even tokenized, right? For example, TSG was invited to be a new game that Immutable was creating, and he was an early beta user. He would be able to get a cosmetic NFT to show that he was a beta user, and those beta users have special access to hidden areas of a game. Might have random premium features that we're like, you know what, we should just support the beta users. These are also non-monetary, non-token ways of saying you're valuable, and I think these membership models should be where the world is going. And also, we have so many case studies as well from World of Warcraft and RuneScape and these other games as well. But yeah, RuneScape took a lot of, and I remember getting my mom's credit card and just being like, I need to pay for RuneScape. I need to buy some gold, man. It's critical.
It's critical, yo. I need to do this, man.
I need this.
Yeah. Man, I think it's an interesting conversation, especially like because we are living in like a very subscription based world, right? Like YouTube, Spotify, like Netflix, all like it just seems like all of us are taking out $2-3 every month without even knowing where it's going for all of these things. So maybe that could be a thing. All right, yo, guys, we are well over an hour now. Yo, I've genuinely, really, really appreciated this conversation. You're probably the first guest that have been like throwing us questions as well. It's been a circular kind of thing. So it's been really good. Man, I want to say thank you all for watching. By the way, Jack, how can people follow you? Do you want to plug anything before you bounce? Anything you want to go say your thing.
Yeah, man. Follow me on Twitter. My DMs are open. I love talking about tokenomics and the future of gaming, all of those types of things. I'm obviously hyper bullish Illuvium, hyper bullish Immutable as well. And so, man, if you want to talk about that, I'm all ears. And so, thanks for bringing me on, lads. Appreciate it.
Yeah, he's also very
awesome.
He's also hyper bullish on Scoriox and TSG. So keep that in mind.
And of course, of course, a big thanks to Illuvium for sponsoring Augment. It's been awesome. Definitely go check out all their content. There's going to be even more stuff coming. I'm very excited. I know there's going to be like Illuvium Zero stuff dropping soon, hopefully.
Illuvitas.
I make it sound like I know it's happening, but I don't. I'm just guessing. But still, like, I'm just very excited. I'm very excited. Yeah. There's a lot happening. Definitely go check out the Illuvium YouTube channel. They're dropping content really, really often now. There might have even been something I've missed. I've got so many notifications on my phone that I haven't looked at yet.
Almost.
Awesome.
There is also a bit of alpha, guys. Check out the Illuvium Twitch as well. We are upping the amount of stuff on Twitch. There is going to be 19 streams next week. 19 streams on Illuvium Twitch. So that's more than 2 streams every day. So definitely check that out. There's so much valuable content going to be on there. But yeah, all right.
Yeah, if you've got the beta, or even if you don't have the beta, if you want to learn how to be better at the game, those Twitch streams are really, really good. I'm helping out people I'm not like a pro or anything, but I definitely spend a lot of my focus on, if anyone has questions about the game or how to play it, I give them a hand, right?
All right, guys. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, notifications, subscribe, Augment Clips, follow Jack, follow me, follow Scoriox. This is on his channel. Sorry, the camera always switches. But we are out, guys. Peace.
See ya.